Hello, all, and welcome to the, I don't even know what I'm going to call it yet, the Get Busy Living podcast, Josh Spera podcast. Just wanted to say hello. First ever, episode 0 podcast. Let's get into it. Oh man, so what is a couple of questions. So I've got, anybody watching this on YouTube knows that I've put out several videos. Last year I started the channel. I'll go into the story here in a little bit, but what am I doing here with this microphone? And what is it I'm hoping to accomplish with this podcast? So this is episode 0, ground zero for the Josh Spera podcast. I guess I'm just going to roll with that. And first things first, for anybody who has been subscribed to the YouTube channel by the same name, Josh Spera, I have been getting a lot of questions. I get a bunch, but the two kind of most prevailing of the questions is, number one, we're going to want to know what is the Josh Spera podcast. But as far as the channel is concerned, they want to know Josh Spera. What does it mean? So lots of people who know me realize that Spera isn't my actual last name. Okay. And over and over and over and over again, as far as say people with social media, when I was doing that and the YouTube channel, people want to know what on earth is with the Spera thing. People who've known me for a long time. And so I wanted to give a quick tip on, or a small piece of information on what the heck. Obviously, my name is Josh or Joshua. People call me Josh or Joshua. I prefer Joshua, but people call me Josh all the time. So, but what is Spera? Okay. So, back in the day when I didn't even have Facebook or social media or anything like that. And I was a little paranoid about what I researched on the computer because, conspiracy theories and Uncle Sam and different things like that. And I'm not going to go into that right now, but I wouldn't put my personal last name out on the internet. I just didn't do it. And whether people liked it or not or agreed with not and said it didn't matter, for whatever reason, I just wouldn't do it. And this is a number of years ago. I don't even know how many years ago it was. But then I was in a band. So it's about a decade ago, actually. I know how many years ago it was. It was a year ago. And I was in a band called Light the Letters. So Light the Letters is the theme song. Write It in Lights is the theme song that I'm choosing for this. It was in a band I was in. I was a guitar player in that band. And I wanted to start a Facebook account to at least be able to interact with people. I was in this band and doing things and, particular church I was going to and stuff like that. But I didn't want to give my regular normal last name to Facebook, right? I didn't want to do that at all. And so what I did was my last name, we have a family crest. It's a pretty awesome family crest. And I like it anyway. I'm happy and proud to bear the last name that I bear. Okay, and well, on this family crest, it says it's the name's of Scottish origin, Scotch-Irish, Scottish origin. So there's and I just say it's Caldwell. That's my actual last name, right? And there's a Caldwell Castle in Scotland, one in Ireland, different places. But on the family crest, it says Fac et Spera, F-A-C-E-T-S-P-E-R-A. And looking up what that meant, it's the family motto. So on the crest is the family motto, and the family motto is do and hope. And I really latched on to the Spera being hope, okay? And the ulterior motive was, well, if I don't put my regular last name on there, then people who I don't even know from high school and from way back in the day who want to rekindle the past, or like, hey, don't you remember when we did this thing in high school? And I have like one person from when I was in high school that I actually kept in contact with. And so really in an attempt to weed out a whole bunch of people who were just I don't know, who don't know me, who don't know me personally. I just changed the name to Josh Spera, which is still my last name, or at least part of it, but also has a dual meaning of hope. Okay, so then fast forward many years later, I'm wanting to. I have some dreams of starting a podcast and a YouTube channel and different things like that. I'm like, well, what the heck am I going to call it? Because still, I don't want to just use my regular last name for whatever reason. It could be any number of infinite reasons. It could be because of the marketing sound of it. It could have been because I don't want it on the internet. It doesn't really matter. I just wanted to know, when I started the YouTube channel that people watch, what did I want to call that, right? And so I decided to fall on continuing with the moniker of Josh Spera, because my intention is to bring hope and encouragement and life to people through my own personal journey. So there you have it. Josh Spera. Spera is part of the Do and Hope moniker of the Caldwell last name. And I'm so proud of that and love it so much that I'm running with Josh Spera as a way to bring light and hope into the world through my own personal journey. Okay. And so that's kind of the answer to the Spera question. So now the question is, why have a podcast? I've had, because I started the YouTube channel a year ago. Let me backtrack a bit. So a year ago, for many years, I had wanted to start a podcast. I had been thinking about it. I've been talking about it. I've been telling people about it, but I hadn't been doing anything about it. And there were a lot of reasons for this. There was a lot of reasons why I wasn't starting. Some of them were, just circumstantial. I didn't have any gear. I had no earthly idea how to do that. But what I want this podcast to be is an extension of the channel that I already started, and to reinforce what I'm doing. This gives me the opportunity so making the types of videos that I were making are a lot of fun, but they're a lot of work, and I don't have as much margin at this moment to do this. I'm still planning on doing a whole bunch of different videos like that. I've even done some that need editing. If you've ever watched the channel, but I want to reinforce it, and I wanted to give myself an outlet I have lots of ideas and lots of things that I've gone through, and I like unpacking them further than just the 10-minute videos that I put out, the 10 to 15-minute videos. I end up editing out a lot in those videos because it just doesn't suit as well long form on YouTube. It might get kind of boring, but I find that podcasting has lended itself well, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. It lends itself well to just sometimes rambling, sometimes long form conversation, unpacking of ideas, being able to go deeper with them that I'm unable to do on the channel. Or at least I feel like I'm unable to do. And I want to still tell other people's story, be in stories and be inspirational, show my own story, and whether it be mindset or health and wellness, or maybe even some of the spiritual things I'm going through, or any of that sort of thing. So Josh Spera as a podcast gives me an outlet to be able to just do that, and I have more margin for it. It's actually, quite frankly, it's easier for me to sit here at this desk, talk into the microphone, and hope make some sense to people. Okay, so that's what the podcast is going to be, an extension of the channel that gives me a bigger outlet to be able to unpack ideas and unpack different things. But it also is something else and something a little larger. And, I want to kind of go back in time again to a year ago, where I was kind of floating through life. I'm working out in the oil field. I don't really know what it is I'm doing. I have been dreaming and visualizing, or at least when I say that, I mean having vision for some things that I wanted to do. And I hadn't really been acting on them. We had some events happen in our life that I can unpack at a greater time, or at a different time that, I was living in Northern California, then we moved to Idaho, and we moved around, and there were some logistical things that made it impossible, or at least, I just wasn't mentally, spiritually, physically in a place to be able to do these dreams that I had. And so I started consuming a bunch of self-help mindset type content. And Well, actually, no. I take that back. I started doing that, but I also started researching how to start a podcast because I had no earthly idea how to do it. I did not know how to do it. I did not know what I was doing, what equipment I would need, anything like that. So I Googled on YouTube how to start a podcast 101, and I stumbled across a guy named Cliff Ravenscraft, who had been putting out a whole bunch of content under the moniker The Podcast Answer Man. And so he had this entire 7-course thing that he had. It was free. He put it on YouTube on learning how to do a podcast, how to set one up, what an RSS feed is, microphones to use, what to harvest the sound with is and he had all of this information, and I was listening to it and consuming it and watching it, and it was awesome. It was super good information. But then I found that Cliff Ravenscraft, unbeknownst to me. So, while I was watching it, that was 6 years earlier, or 7 years earlier, that he'd created the podcast Answerman content, and I found that he had morphed into or changed into Cliff Ravenscraft, the Mindset Answer Man. And the Mindset Answer Man is kind of what you would imagine it would be. It's a guy documenting his life's journey and walking through the process of different mindset things, belief systems, self-defeating, self-limiting belief systems. His own journey from being a pastor to an insurance salesman to podcaster to YouTuber to motivational speaker to hosting Free the Dream event to and ultimately being a coach to people, an inspirational life coach for people. And he has all of these things. And I found his podcast, which was Cliff Ravenscraft's show, Mindset Answer Man. And so I started listening to it. Listened to it nonstop. There were a couple others that Lewis Howe and then Craig Groeschel, I believe it's called, the Leadership Podcast, things like that I really like. But man, I really fell in love with Cliff's podcast. And I listened to it nonstop. There was just something about the way he spoke, the things that he said, the manner of which he unfolded info. It was like a long conversation. Now, I've had other friends say, man, how do you listen to the guy? I just want him to get to the point. I just want him to get, and I like how listening to him ramble on, and I feel like I'm just kind of in the room with him. And so I was listening to his podcast and came across an episode where he had said, hey, it was an older episode, but he said, hey, if you want to reach out to me for whatever reason, he had a question, or not a question, but it was more of a question statement or something to answer. What is the one thing that excites you and scares you the most that you want to do? Like, what's one dream, one passion that you have that excites you and scares you the most? And I'd like to hear from anyone who wants it through Voxer. Okay, he had given out his Voxer handle and said, contact me with the answer to this. So I got wild hair in my butt and a moment of inspiration. And for those who know me, know that I'm not a tech guy and I don't download apps and anything, but I called up my wife and said, hey, I need to know how to download this app. And so I downloaded the app Voxer and I found out how to get a hold of him, and I sent him a message. I sent Cliff Ravenscraft a message. And lo and behold, like the next day, I believe, it's either that day or the next day, it was within very close proximity, he responded. And he was so moved and so blown away by the message that I had given him. And he actually created an entire piece of content around the phone call that I had given him. So if you go to podcast directory, Cliff Ravenscraft show, it's entitled, You Will Not Get What You Do Not Ask For. Okay, it's what it's called. And I can look it up here. And it's, I'm trying to see what episode number it is. And let me do that here real quick. ClifRaven's Ravens. Yeah. Anyway, I think it's like 632 or something of that nature, episode 632 or something of that nature. But it's called You Will Not Get What You Do Not Ask For. So if you just go to his podcast on Apple or whatever, and there's a whole episode of me calling him and him responding to me personally, and it was awesome. I'm not gonna lie, it was rad. It was a huge shot in the arm. I felt super duper honored and impressed that he would be willing to do that. And we both felt that it was kind of divine appointment, right? And so he contacted me again and said, hey, I would like to offer to you a 90-minute complimentary coaching experience. Some people call them coaching calls, coaching sessions, but I've got to admit, coaching experience. I'm not going to lie. And would you be interested in something like that? And I said, yes, absolutely. I am crazy, kind of wandering right now, and I'm trying to figure out what it is I'm doing and the direction that I'm going. And I just come out of a very tumultuous season of my life and was really looking to kind of get back to work on me, my relationship with God, and the things that the calling of my life, right? So I want to start a podcast, and I find a podcast after me. I found the content, blah, 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 blah. All those things happened, and he responded, and I did the coaching call. And it was extraordinary. And during that coaching call, there's a lot of great info, self-limiting beliefs that I went through. I'm going to do an entire podcast on what are you choosing to believe about yourself, because there were things that I believed about myself that were actually just ridiculous and not true, but have become the narrative in my mind on how I was, and the thing. Anyway, but he had this to say.
You said something, Joshua, that spoke to me, and it's something that God has been speaking to me for about 4 years now. I went to a Tony Robbins conference, and I came away from that conference saying, I want to do for the next 30 years what Tony Robbins has done for the past 30 years. Mm-hmm. And part of me thought, dude, nobody wants to hire me for mindset stuff. No, who am I? I mean, they could get this from Tony himself. They could get this from so-and-so. I mean, you've got Lewis Howes, and you got Joe. You got all these different people out there. Why me? And what was communicated to me by God, I've never been the type of person in the past who really gave a ton of credit to those who say, hey, I've heard a message from God he wants me to share with you. But there have been only a handful of times in my life that's actually happened. Mm-hmm. And every one of them was unmistakably, there's something that was included within that message that there's no way on earth that the person who was telling me the message could have known the secret code that was contained inside of the message to confirm this was directly from God. Here's what I'm telling you. I'm seeing you in a booth or a room, sitting behind a microphone, using your voice to encourage people. There's something about your voice. And it's not just what you say, but there's something about the vibration of the frequency of your voice, that when you speak, no matter what you say, it unlocks something inside of other people. Like chains fall off. And it's your voice uniquely that will do that. That they could hear that message from other people, and and I'm telling you, I have heard this. You've just confirmed it. I have heard this over and over and over again.
All right, so that whole little section has really spoken and resonated with me over and over, and I keep going back to it. And he was the catalyst. I'm not joking. Cliff Ravenscraft, my coaching call with him, his responding to me, he felt prompted by God to do so, to reach out to me, and he was the catalyst, no joke, for me even starting the YouTube channel. So right from the get-go, so everybody knows, if it wasn't for him challenging me and saying, hey, I want to see content, I would not have started the channel. And the idea was, I'm going to start this channel and go through, document adventures and different things I go through and stuff like that, and in hopes that it will help and encourage other people. And during the coaching call, he asked me about this speaking behind a microphone. He asked me about, have I ever done that, and how he genuinely believed that, and quite frankly got me to believe that just talking with people and putting that out in the ether would be beneficial and helpful, and that God has created me for a purpose. And I understand that he has. I strive to be the greatest husband I can, the greatest father I can, the greatest son I can. I know that I have purpose, but there's some other specific purpose. And my hope is now that anyone who stumbles across this podcast or even this YouTube channel, that the things that I say and do and go through and the life that I'm living in an attempt to live the life that I was created to live and not just a mundane existence, helps other people get up off their butt and start really trying to live life, right? And so when I started the channel, I had like big plans. I was going to do these types of videos and that types of videos, and I did some of them, but man, it's a lot of work. It's very expensive, and I just didn't have the margin to do it at the time. So the videos slowed down tremendously, and I don't think I put anything out for like 5 months. But once again, I'm back online with that. I'm not making any apologies or anything. I'm just giving you the timeline. And when I started it, I had plans, but as does happen, life happens, and some of those plans changed. I used to fall into the pitfall of, well, it didn't go according to plan, I failed. Well, that's not the case anymore. I don't think that I failed, but I am watching as things are changing and doors are opening up and different ideas are coming to me, and then I have the margin for some things that now I'm excited that I have the equipment and the gear and the, I don't know, whatever it is, the calling and the inspiration to talk into the microphone and see if it will help people. There's a lot of people who don't start something. A lot of us, myself included. There are so many times I didn't start something, and I'm going to be strictly transparent that another reason why it's been so long since I put some content out is because I'm kind of afraid. I've been afraid to do this. I've been nervous to do this, and I'll get to that here in a minute. But some of us don't even start. We get stunted by waiting for the perfect time. We wait, or we're just live in fear that we're going to fail, and because failure is inevitable, I don't even start to do something, or because I don't have a clear picture of what the future is going to be, or I don't have an end goal. I don't have this. A plus B equals C, and C is the reason, so that makes A and B possible. They don't have that, so they do nothing. They do nothing out of insecurity, because I just don't think they're good enough to do it. Or I say they, myself included, that who's going to want to listen to me? I'm literally just some guy or some gal. I'm just some person who, I don't, why would someone listen to me about anything? What do I even have to say? And I'm going to quote one of our favorite musicians, which is Tyler Joseph of 21 Pilots. And he's got a song called Kitchen Sink. But there's a line in it that it resonates with me very well. And it's this. He says, "Are you searching for purpose? Well, then write something. It might be worthless. Then paint something. It might be wordless. Pointless curses, nonsense verses. You'll see purpose start to surface." Sometimes we find out what the purpose is after we've already started the journey. Once again, going back to Cliff, he did he used to do these whiteboard sessions, and he made an allegory that I really liked, and it falls in line with this, that, if you're looking for purpose, then write something, then paint something, then do something, because it might not feel worth anything at first. But as you continue to create, as you continue to move forward, you'll see the purpose begin to surface. And he equated it to if you're on land, and then you're looking out at a gulf and a peninsula. You don't know what's around the other side of that peninsula, and you don't know what's on the other side you can just see into the Gulf. And sometimes it takes walking to the end of the peninsula for you to see what's around the other side. And then once you get to that, or sometimes you might have to get on a boat and sail out a little ways, right, to see what's around the corner. And then once you get around the corner, you're like, oh, well, that's pretty interesting too. I'm going to go after that. And then you go after what's around the corner, and then that exposes another amount of information you didn't have, but you never would have seen around the bend, around the peninsula, and into the expanse of ocean and dreams if you didn't take the first step away from where you are right now. And that super resonated with me. I equate it to sometimes as well. This is later in my notes, but I think it's pertinent now. That do we as people drivers, okay, people who drive vehicles, do we get afraid to go somewhere, to drive somewhere when the sun goes down? Right? Well, there's no light, right? Well, you can't see what's way, way ahead of you. Do we get afraid to drive down the road because we can't see a mile off like you can during the daylight? No, we turn on those headlights. And those headlights are sufficient enough to get us to like literally the next 100 yards and the next 100 yards. And then we see the turn and we take the turn. And sometimes in order to get to your destination, you've got to kind of step out in faith and rely on just what you the information that you have available to you immediately. You always get home. You get to where you're going. You get to your destination. Sometimes you need a road map because you've never been there before, but you can still turn on those headlights and you can still drive. You can drive at the right speed, and you don't necessarily see everything. You don't even see the house on the hill over here. You don't see all of those things, but you're still able to get to where you're going. And I liken it to that sometimes. Now, sometimes we do have the luxury of seeing a big picture in broad daylight and putting everything in their order and saying, I'll do this and do that. But we don't always get that. But that doesn't mean we should do nothing. And so I decided, through the prompting of Cliff and just in the place I was at with the Lord, that, I'm going to start this channel. I'm going to do something. And I came out with the first video of what am I doing? So you can go back and reference that. What am I doing if you're just stumbling upon this now? And it was super vulnerable, super honest. And so now I want to be super vulnerable and super honest with you now on kind of where I'm in and where I'm going to go with this, or at least I believe I'm going. And that is, I want this podcast to help people purely. I mean, I really, really do. Well, it's not purely, but it's like number one and number two. I want to help. I want to break people and see them move forward in life. Okay, I want to and do something, but this also gives me an outlet to vocalize things that I'm learning along the way on my journey. We are all on a journey. Okay, and I want to encourage other people. I want to tell, different stories of things that I've been through. I have I have 45 years of content. If you rewind, remove some of that, I can't remember when I was a baby, of where I am today. And where I am today is beloved son of the Most High. I have an awesome wife. Been married 21 years. I have 4 amazing children that I have great relationships with. I have friendships that I'm super loyal with, and it's awesome. And I'm moving forward in creating both my other YouTube channel and podcast called Reasonably Prepared, where I help people break out of a cycle of being behind the 8 ball and taking personal initiative to be responsible for their own emergency preparedness without any fear, without any paranoia, no doomsday stuff. And I'm enjoying doing it. And through the process of doing that, just starting doing something, I found that I really love talking into a mic. I love the podcast. I love having conversation with people. And so that is what I'm doing. And I know that we are all on a journey. I just want to keep reminding myself and us of that. It is not the end, right? And to quote Martin Luther, all right, Martin Luther says, "We are not yet where we shall be, but we are growing toward it. The process is not yet finished. Until I have my last breath, I'm going to continue to pursue who I believe God has created me to be, because I believe He's created me on purpose, for a purpose. I genuinely believe it. It's not something somebody can argue me out of. But because I'm human and I'm fallible, and because I've gone through life and failed and succeeded and done all those things, I have some of the natural fears and reservations that anybody else would. And one of the reasons why I haven't made content in so long is because, I've gone through the motions of what if I mess it up? What if I say something that's really stupid and I steer somebody wrong? What if I do it wrong? What if it sucks and people just want to come at me, bro, because everything I say is it's not Christian enough, or it's too Christian, or it's too mindset, or it's too this, or it's not that enough, or not this enough. I'm coming to a place where I'm like, what of it? What of it? I'm going to go ahead and take the words to heart, seeing purpose start to surface, and do something. And I have a passion to help people. So what am I going to do? Sit on my couch doing nothing? No, that's not That's not what I'm going to do. So I have been creating content through Reason to Be Prepared. You can go check that out if you want. It's been a lot of margin to do that. But this is a bit more intimate for me. And I don't want to get it wrong. I want to do it right. But I might. I'm willing to fail and learn. And the reason I'm saying that out loud is because that's sometimes the first step for people is, are you willing to fail and learn from it? As though failure is some sort of terrible thing. And I'm going to do a whole episode on that. I got all kinds of content I'm going to be creating, but failure is not the end. For goodness sakes, it's part of the learning process. And so on and on it goes, blah, blah, blah. Will I be good enough? Blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm just not going to listen to those voices anymore. And that's why I'm stepping up to do this. So that's what I'm doing. I'm making content that I feel inspired to make. Okay. On the episode that Cliff did for me about me, he encouraged me to do this.
Joshua, I'm going to tell you right now, you have to start now. Start this week. Don't worry about the name of it. Don't worry about what the content is. Just start creating that content. Sure, make it as creative as you want, but whatever you do, don't wait 2 more years. Don't wait another year. Don't wait another month. Don't wait another week. This week, publish something on YouTube. There are people out there who are so dissatisfied with life. They are so discouraged in life that they're thinking about throwing in the towel. And some of those people, if you start filming and start publishing, some of those people will be reached by you, and your voice, only your voice, will unlock them from the mindset that they currently have, and it could save their lives.
Right? So that's where I'm at. I'm just going to press record. I'm just going to and see what happens. I'm going to give you guys all kinds of vulnerable content of things I've been through, of the challenges that I've had, of my ups, my downs, my failures, my wounds, my sorrows, my fun. You know, some of this is going to be fun. I got a whole episode that I wrote up notes for on just things I like about Texas. So this is going to be a variety show too, guys. There's no niche here. I researched profitable YouTube channels and how to build a YouTube channel and how to build a podcast. There's always these niche. The niche is me. The niche is my journey, and that's where I'm going with it. And I'm going to start pressing record over and over and over again. I'm going to put it on YouTube for people who like watching it. I'm going to put it on in the podcast directory, so if you're driving down the road, you can just listen to it and hope that I've already had 3 or 4 different interviews with people that I will be referencing and talking about, and it was a lot of fun, and I'm going to continue to do that in hopes that it motivates you to action, it fills you with hope, and encourages you if you're discouraged, and just gets us off our asses living life, because life, I know it can beat us down, but it's pretty awesome. I'm really enjoying it. So that's what I'm doing. Turning on those headlights, and I'm pushing the gas down and seeing where this takes me. All right. And so I just want to say thanks. Thanks to anybody who's willing to listen. Thanks to Cliff for being just generous beyond measure and pouring into me and being willing to take a chance on some ex-punk rocker tattooed up guy who was just kind of knocking through life looking for things, looking for purpose. And here we go. Josh Spera podcast on your podcast directory. I wanted to call it Get Busy Living. It's taken blah, blah, blah. Nope. Josh Spera. And hope is what I'm peddling. All right. Talk to you next time.